Hi, it's Tim Patton and Stephanie Richardson here at the hip. Let me start over on that one. So we're going to do take two on that one. Hi, it's Tim Patton here with Stephanie Richardson in the Hit Lab Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Glad to be here today, and we thank you for joining us. I have a special guest here today, Mr. Mike Edmonds. Why don't you say hi, Mike?
Hello.
And so glad he's here with us. Mike is a dear friend and also a business associate. And, we've got a little more than skin deep on our experiences together over the years. And we thank you for being here as a guest with us. Mike is in the HR and payroll and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm going to let him talk about that a little bit later. But we appreciate your time today. And when we're talking about recession proofing, this is one of the things that we all are acutely aware of. And it's something that we want to explore a little bit today and talk about in depth how we've all had experiences with it and how others are dealing with it, really. So as we kind of get started and get into this topic, I want to kind of set the tone for, how I see and talk to people on how they feel about their organization and how they are reacting to the current economy. So we're not going to get deep into politics and we're not going to get deep into the economic state right now, but we do want to make sure that we're aware of it. And with that, the topic of recession proofing comes up a lot. And I guess I would start off with the definition of what recession proofing is. Pertaining to our business, we work with a multitude of businesses that are scared about what's going to happen in the future, and some of them are ill prepared. My best advice to them is to get prepared and do it now, not later, not be reactive, but be proactive and really jump into that. I want to throw out a few statistics for you so that you can kind of understand the potential for disaster if you're not prepared. So back in 2008 through 2010, we're all aware of the recession that occurred at that time and how things worked out. Many of us experienced it in, not the greatest ways. So I'll leave that to your imagination. But as far as the way that things occurred in the industry or in the economy at that time, the stats show that 1.8 million small businesses failed during that 2-year period. Now that is an amazing number. And I want to, jump into that with you, Mike, and kind of get some feedback from you. You were in your current industry at the time. You work with clients every single day. What was your experience in dealing with your clients and how they felt about what was going on at that time back in 2008, 2010?
Well, in 2008, 2010, I was still at my previous employer. Interesting enough, we struggled. We had several clients close, and then the risk was the lack of payment. So, but ironically, during that time period too, businesses began to contract, so they controlled their budgets and their money much more tightly. And so then outsourcing even became more of an option to accomplish the goals. So so we did see some growth in there, but we did lose some clients that went out of business, just like during COVID.
So as we kind of segue into that, Stephanie, at that time, where were you and what were you doing at that time? And what was your take on it in 2008, 2010?
So in 2008, I was in my direct sales business, which I continue to do. And I think with any change, whether it's a recession or 9/11 or COVID or whatever, we've all experienced them. I've been an entrepreneur for 26 years, so I've been through a lot of change. That's the only thing that's constant, right, is change. Mm-hmm. And you just have to not get frozen by it. And I think that that's what a lot of businesses do, is they have so much fear of what's coming or what could happen that they freeze and they do nothing. They don't put a plan in place. They don't come up with options. They don't think outside of the box and think, how can we, our word we heard during COVID was pivot, right? How can we pivot? How can we think, how can I serve my clients in a different way? How can I add value in a different way? It may be totally different than what we've been doing, but we have to be open to that.
I totally agree. I think that element of being able to pivot and being willing to pivot is critical. Many businesses failed because they were just frozen in fear, I think. I mean, is that your experience at that time with the with client?
And in the COVID era, there was a time that 50% of our businesses clients were closed. So we have a team that processes payroll for people who's not open. So Stephanie mentioned pivot. We pivot. Our payroll team started gathering all the information needed to fill out applications for the PPP loans for our clients. And so the Friday that they opened up accepting loan documents, we had 84 clients that applied day one that we had processed the information for. So we just found a way to help our clients that ultimately continued our ability to stay in business. And so that flexibility and pivot and find out where the need is at that point in time is very important.
I agree. I think that, what I observed at that time was I know offhand a half a dozen people that I personally knew. I know much more than that, and we all do, that failed during that period. And the reason they failed is because the lack of, maybe knowledge, maybe help like you gave. I think your clients are privileged to be able to have someone that steps in for them. Many of them don't understand that process, and it was pretty arduous is what I can recall from it, and we participated in it as well. So I think that if you didn't, you certainly lessened your chances for survival through an unknown period during that time. So I'm going to jump right into that and, fast forward into that COVID era. So as we all rolled into that, I think I can speak for everyone that none of us knew what we were going to expect. We just knew we had to do something. So Stephanie, you work with clients, and Stephanie's amazing professional coach. And I want her to talk a little bit about how she works with her clients to prepare them for times like these and what she saw. What did you see during that time?
So I think one of the things that really surprised me was that I really expected that a lot of people would start looking at their budget and say, I can't participate in coaching right now, because that's exactly what happens is people get scared and they start looking for how can I cut my budget and where can I cut? Mm-hmm. But what I found was all we had to do was switch from meeting one-on-one in person to meeting on Zoom, which I did with everyone during that period. And what amazed me was that they wanted a sounding board. They needed somebody to bounce ideas off of. They needed counsel. They needed guidance because it was such an unknown territory and nobody knew what to do or how can we survive. And it was, when you're a business owner, a lot of times it's lonely at the top, right? And you need someone to be able to share ideas with and say, what do you think about this? Could I try this? Do you think this might work? What do you think about this? Do you think this would work? And that kind of thing happened. And I saw that growth in those people because they stopped and they put a focus on growing themselves. And they didn't ignore that because that's what makes you different. When you go through a recession, when you put the focus on growing yourself and learning and really bettering yourself, then you stand out. You're unique because you are adding knowledge and value and to your customers from what you're learning yourself. So that's what I saw.
I totally agree with that. And I would say that, to those of you who, whether it's your personal finances or whether it's your profession and maybe as a leader of a company or an owner, and you're in, dark territory here as we approach something that's pending pending recession or downturn in the economy. We can call it what we want, but it's a bad thing to us that we rely on our income through our businesses. So as we look at that, I want you to understand something, and it's not, a plastered on the media thing. There's an amazing amount of opportunity and chance for growth of wealth, and a chance to grow your business, and a chance to be able to better yourself during that time. I mean, Stephanie's talked to me about what do you do during the downtime? How do you spend your time? It's incredibly important to know that you focus on bettering yourself. If you have nothing better to do, make yourself better so that you can get better at your job, at what you do, or the role that you have within your company. I think that makes you more valuable. And as attrition may occur, like it always does, you want to be one of those people that is not only as an employee or a business owner, you want to be the person that is valuable and that they just can't live without. So as we roll into this unknown, being prepared is terribly important. And it's also one of the things that we preach daily to companies that are looking to grow and scale their business. We try to find ways to pivot and add to their business, add to the value of it. So, Mike, you want to talk about what you look at and what you have understood through going through that experience back in, we're still on the tail end of it, I would say, and there's still some effects of it for sure. But what would you recommend to a business owner as they go into this unknown time, which could potentially become bad? It may not, but let's just all agree that better prepared than not. So what would your advice be to a business owner or leader?
Well, the first thing I would do would likely look at my opportunities that were in front of me. Where could I diversify or derive additional revenue from? And that would be the first thing. The second thing, unfortunately, you would have to do is if you see a decrease in income into your organization, you're going to have to make some tough choices. And those choices could be staffing. Those choices could be, some benefits. I don't really know without being at that point. But most importantly, I think you have to look for the opportunity. Business success is usually not made by counting pennies at the bottom line. It's and cutting pennies in the expense columns of your income statement. Success is made by growing that top line. So you have to find a way to grow the top line. And in our industry, I think it's important, people, as revenues get a little tight, then we have an opportunity to provide the same services that they can't afford to employ a person to do, and we do that for much less than what an employed person would cost. So I see those as opportunities. I also see opportunities in other areas, by extending our vendor base that will also kind of help our clients and help them succeed through these tough times. So there's lots of opportunities. You just don't close the door to anything. You need to keep definitely your eye open and for that to present itself. And I hate to back up, but I was listening to Stephanie about the 2008 and in COVID, and it was, that is so true about a business owner being lonely at the top, because you cannot, quote, vent or share your concerns to anybody in your organization, because then all of a sudden your organization is going, I'm out of here. So I could understand why that would be very critical, and so that would be something I would also recommend. Find someone that also can give you guidance and mentorship through it.
I think that's true, and you and I have exchanged ideas over the years and had the opportunity to work together. And during those times, I think we've both learned something, hopefully. I always claim I've learned more than you have from you. And so he'll say the same thing about me, I'm sure. But we've had the opportunity to go through some things together and, utilize each other's expertise in certain areas. So my advice is, stepping up and putting your pride aside and looking for partnerships that can do things better than you. That doesn't mean that you're giving up all of your revenue, but it may mean that you don't have to hire an additional employee when you really need to function. So many times we look at it as, I've got to hire 20 people to be able to do our job, to make money. And then, as I've experienced in the past, I've grown businesses, added employees, and then I scratched my head after a while and I was making no more money than I was earlier on with the smaller company. So I think that's critical part of it. I want to add in here some of the areas that I have researched that take the biggest hit. And this is not to throw a wrench into anybody's day, but real estate, construction, manufacturing, and retail, leisure, and hospitality are really the big five that everybody talks about the most in the industry whenever there is a recession or a downturn in the economy. So if you are related to those areas or work with or in those areas, I think it's important that you prepare yourself. And I'm always preaching prepare regardless. I mean, prepare, anything can happen. So always be in that top most solid position so that if something does happen, whatever it may be, then you can carry on with your business and diversify and look for other opportunities. Stephanie, talk a little bit about that, the industries that you deal with and how you coach them to be better at what they do every day.
So I think it's really important for business owners to stop and take the time to really assess and reflect and ask challenging questions. And I coach a lot of real estate agents and mortgage loan officers, insurance agents.
And they're worried.
Yeah. And I hear all the stories. And one of the questions I've asked them is, where's your business coming from? Where's most of your business coming from? And if you can assess where your business is coming from, then you know where to spend your time, your energy, and your money, right? To invest in marketing or social media or whatever targeted at those groups of where they come from. But if you're doing something that's not bringing you results, then it's not going to be fruitful to do that, right? To continue to, let's say you're doing a mailer and you're not getting any clients from a mailer as a real estate agent. Well, why would you continue to invest money in that? So we've looked at things like that, and the client has said, I've got one client from that in the last 2 years. Well, then we need to stop that.
Exactly.
Right? And where is your business coming from? And that's where we spend our time and our money, is investing in those. And we all know it's easier to keep the customers that we have and ask for referrals from them than to go out and try to find new customers. But what a lot of people don't do is they don't work that referral market. They're afraid to ask.
Right.
And so holding my clients accountable to asking for those referrals has been pivotal in helping them get new business.
I think that's a great point, and one that, you really need to reach out and build those relationships. I mean, people will say, I don't have time to do that, or it's too expensive. You can't afford not to, is my opinion on that. I think that looking at other people that have partnered in the past and helped build an organization in the past, it's critical to have people that you're surrounded by that know a lot more than you in certain areas. So I want to shift a little bit and talk about, kind of touch on clients. And sometimes this is a touchy subject with owners and leaders, because you talk about your client base, right? And you talk about the quality of that base. And what we'll recommend many times is to look at products and customers, because analyzing products and customers and truly understanding your ROI, your return on investment with each of those areas is critical. I think it's important to understand that, 80% of your business may make you this much, and that, common term of 80-20, and 20% may make, your 80% of your revenue. So that's true a lot of times. So, taking care of those core customers, and sometimes, I hate to say it, but firing those customers that load your staff down, they're negative, they bring down the morale, and they really don't fit into your organization or your culture. I mean, you're building a culture, and that doesn't just stop at the doors of your organization. So talk a little bit about that and how we can tactfully go about, maybe filtering through the people that might not be part of our future as an organization, to really lean up, in other words, and build not only great solid customers, but to build products that are bringing a return and not just sitting on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you asked that question, because that's what I asked of you the other day. Okay, what do I do and how do I do it? Yeah. And so it is so true that you will have clients that dominate a lot of time of your staff and do not bring that much money to the bottom line. So as an owner, it's difficult to go, okay, we need to cultivate our book. How's the best way to do that? It's easier for the staff to say that because they're bearing the burden. But it is one of those things that is very important, and I did take Tim's advice and work through that process, that you have to bring every group. You're doing a disservice to the good clients if you're sitting here tying up a lot of time with someone that is consuming your team. So it's a tough decision. I don't know the exact answer to answer that, but I am following your guidance that, usually if you lose a client, that's probably the right one that you needed to lose as you go through this process of cultivating and changing maybe pricing on that particular client because of the burden that they cause on your team. So
would you agree that sometimes that's a pride factor to let customers go?
Absolutely. I personally try to have somewhat of a relationship with almost every client that I have. And, but the larger we've gotten, the more difficult that is. And it can be somewhat demoralizing to your staff, if you lose accounts. But if you're I keep using the term cultivate, but if you cultivate your book where you're doing the best for the ones that that are profitable and are utilizing your services appropriately and treat you in the same way that you treat them, then they're going to, those are the clients who refer us business. It's never the difficult ones. It's just funny how it's kind of all flows together.
So I would agree with that. I know you have something to add, Stephanie. So
yeah, I was just thinking that it's important to not only look at those external customers, but we also need to look at our internal customers, which are our employees, right? So there's two types of customers we look at in any kind of organization. And if an external customer is causing so much stress and anxiety that it's affecting the internal customers, then woo, because those internal customers have to be taken care of. Your staff have to be taken care of if you want them to treat your external customers correctly, right? So when you make the decision to get rid of that difficult client that affects them so negatively, then you're protecting your organization and helping them serve clients that are external clients even better.
I agree with that wholly and completely. I think that something I've noticed in the past where owners or leaders, salespeople sometimes individually, will fight to keep a customer that is already leaving on their own decision, and they're a bad client, and always got a tickle out of that. I was like, wait a minute, aren't these the guys that really cause us the most pain, and they bring the organization down? And then in fact, we're arguing with the client to try to keep their business when yet we're better off without them. So, that's some will receive that as negative, but I just encourage everybody to look at your organization and analyze a lot of the things that we look at when we go into a business to try to get them prepared for recession proofing. These things are not rocket science. I know that's a cliche, but in fact, they are basic principles that just work. They're tried and true, things that we recommend to recession-proof the organization may be the same things that we're recommending to grow an organization, to scale an organization, or to prepare it for an acquisition if the owner decides that they're ready to exit. So all of those elements really need to be in place. And with those elements in place, we find that the organization runs very much like a well-oiled machine. I've witnessed it with Mike's organization and how he runs his operation. I've taken a lot of notes, stolen a lot of great ideas, and I'll use them every time. So
I'm going to write down what Stephanie just said too, because I want to remember that one too.
And good point. We're always here to learn from each other and, share those great ideas and just build a community of success with everybody you work with. But I want to kind of transition into that. I know, Stephanie, you had some ideas that were around that and how we build off of that, and tell a little bit about the belief triangle and some of the beliefs that go into building those thoughts.
Yeah, I think that whenever we're faced with a potential recession, that mindset we know makes so much of a difference in how successful a leader and their organization will be. If a leader goes into it with a positive mindset and encourages everyone in the organization to have a positive mindset, then we know that the results are going to be great. So your beliefs determine your actions, and your actions determine your results. So if you believe there are no customers out there that want what you have to offer, or they're not going to spend money, then guess what your actions are going to be? A big fat nothing. You're not going to do anything. And then what are your results going to be? Nothing. And then that just reinforces that belief. But if you believe there are plenty of people out there that want what you have to offer, right? And you just have to find them, then you'll take the action that you need. It may be different than what you've ever done before because you have to pivot, as we've talked about, but you'll take the actions, whatever new they might be, to get the results. And then that reinforces those beliefs. See, there are people out there that need what I have to offer. I just have to do a different tactic than I had before.
You have to package
Right.
it a little differently, but and we all do that in a way that we want to position ourselves in the market so that we're helping solve a problem. And I think we talked about this on our previous episode, was how we approach what a company does is important in building those belief systems, building a plan, executing that plan. But it really comes down to asking yourself just the simple questions of why, the why behind what we do. What do we do? Do you build a widget, but why do you build the widget? I mean, this comes from Simon Sinek's teachings in his book about, how he sees organizations that are at the very top of their game operate, and they operate a little differently. They've determined and understand completely why they do what they do. And outside of that is the what they do. And then beyond that is how it impacts their customers and solves the problem. So we're all there to solve those problems that the customers have. We're there to deliver a win for them. And in turn, they take care of us by those solid referrals. Now, I'm going to go back to clients and ask each of you your opinion on how you feel the referral system works. I know that we all have our different approaches to it, but I would step out on a limb and guess that your most trusted, solid clients give the best referrals. And I'm not just saying give a referral, but they give the best quality referrals because they probably understand your system. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. They're not the easiest deal to close comes from another client. If they've referred you into that business, obviously there's already been some communication that has occurred, and there is a need that is there, and they're taking advice from someone they obviously trust or a trusted resource for them. So when you walk in the door, you're already a leg up on the competition, and it is we probably have a over 80% close ratio if it comes from a client. Now, I will also tell you the majority of our new sales come from a client. So, and it's not something that we actively cultivate either. It's not like we're always asking for referrals from our clients. It's just one of those things that happen. I could probably, based off of what you said, Stephanie, be more proactive in that and probably do much better. So that's going to be one of the things on our annual meeting for our sales team to focus on. So anyway, and we and it's interesting. We spread out those client referrals. It doesn't just benefit sales; it benefits our entire team. They earn a commission if a client refers another client into us. So everybody has a piece of it. So that's my idea on client referrals.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I think that I've seen firsthand some of the clients that I've worked with, they've basically done the work for me. Like Mike was saying, they've gone in and they've talked with someone one-on-one, and as they've met them, they say, oh, you need to work with Stephanie, and maybe they're in the same industry. For example, I have two sisters that I coach. They're physical therapists. They're in different states. I started working with one sister. She talked to the other one, and now I coach both of them. Same thing happened recently with a therapist that I'm coaching. I used to be a therapist for 10 years, and so I know that industry. And she immediately after we had our first session reached out to another therapist that she knew and said, you need to meet Stephanie. So they had done the legwork for me before I actually had that one-on-one conversation with that potential referral. And basically, all I have to do is walk in and get them to sign the deal, right? To close the paperwork, because they've already done everything for me. They've done all the work. They're the sales force out there acting for you because they see the value that you've added to their life. And when you add that value to a customer's life, then they're going to be your best person to go out and give that testimonial. I mean, think about it. When we look for anything we want to buy, where do we look? We look on Google. We look for what does everyone say about this product, whether it's HR services or whatever it is that you're providing, they're going to look and see what other people are saying. And so, yeah.
I think that's great. I want to rewind just a little bit in our thoughts, but also tell like a win, a story that I had read about on LinkedIn a few weeks back, and it just kind of stuck with me. And as we were thinking about this recession planning and what has happened in the former 2002, 2008 and 10 crisis, and now going into coming out of COVID, and with any bad things that could potentially happen to us in the future, we're always looking to improve and become a little stronger at what we do. And if you're not doing that, you really should be. So I want to read you this quick story. This is a young lady that, in fact, is in the coaching business. She had a really great start back in early part of her career. She had added about, I forget how many clients total, but she lost a great number of those going into COVID. So the story goes is that she, March 14th of 2020, she felt like she had made it. She felt like she had reached, success. She was struggling, kind of had that moment for a breath, and she stopped, and she'd been very frugal with her money, done a great job of kind of controlling her expenses and putting that money back into the business like we all preach that we should do. And she had closed 3 of the biggest deals in the history of her company within the last 3 months prior to this event happening. So, she gets a phone call on a day where she finally had decided that she had made it, on a day where she had finally decided that she was going to reward herself and go out and buy, let's say, a new purse. She doesn't say what it is, but let's say she's out and she's rewarding herself for her success finally after not driving and buying the new car and not buying the new house and all those things that we know lead to, delayed success. So a couple of months before that, of course, she found true success. That money was rolling in. Clients were coming in. She was successful. And she got a phone call right at the peak of when things were breaking with COVID, when the news started to break. And she said she got a phone call and it said, I'm sorry to do this. We love working with you. And you're like one of our team, but we're going to have to pull the plug on our work together. She said that they had been on lockdown only for minutes, if not hours at that point. And the company was going to go down on lockdown in 48 hours. And they knew that they were having to immediately pivot and do some things differently with the organization. And I don't blame them for doing that and having that reaction, because we all know what the results were. And early on, we didn't know what was going to happen. 2 minutes later, she got a second phone call, cancel contract, and a third and a fourth and a fifth. And this kept going until over 90% of her business was gone within the hour. And she had to make a change. She took some advice from one of her mentors, and she stepped out and started to look for other ways to expand her business. And so, in fact, she found success, much like you did, Stephanie, where she thought everything was over. She started looking and, turning over other rocks. And so as it goes, in 12 weeks, she had built her business back to where it was at the time of the event. And think about what would have or might have happened if she had just said, I'm done. But she didn't do that. She stepped up. She talked to her mentors. She looked for a way to create other revenue streams. And in fact, the coaching business became an incredible success because people were desperate for help. They were desperate for help. So I would never recommend getting to that point where you find yourself in a position of losing all your business during an event. Our mantra is not only to diversify and look for other revenue streams within the organization, but to look outside of it. I mean, find ways that you can take revenue, take your profits and invest in areas that are going to secure the future of the organization. And it doesn't have to be within what you do on a daily paycheck, within your company. It can also be outside of that, and you're diversifying, spreading that risk, and you're also finding that you have more contacts and more referrals within those interactions. So with that said, and kind of on that note, I want to get your opinion on how you feel like we should proceed going into this potential recession or downturn in the economy, and what would be your closing thoughts. I'll start with Stephanie on how to prepare for what might come in the future and just getting your house in order.
I think the first thing I would suggest is, one, get your mindset right. Because whatever you believe, you're going to get. If you believe your business is going to fail, then your business is going to fail. If you believe your business is going to thrive and you put a plan in place for your business to thrive, then your business will thrive. So part of getting your house in order is getting your mindset correct. And then seeking guidance from other people who can help, who can give you feedback, who can maybe help you think of other ways to do things, new, different, outside of the box, and being open to that.
I agree. That's great advice. And I think that number one is recognizing there's an issue and then listening to great advice like that, because if you'll just take action on it, it makes a big difference. So Mike?
Yeah, ditto what Stephanie just said. It's all about your mindset. And then the awareness of the opportunities that are out there, and go for them. Some people approach life timid, and some people approach life gung-ho. And both of those succeed and fail. And so I just would much rather be on the gung-ho side of things and fail. I want to fail trying, not fail by giving up and regretting.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So that would be my advice. I talked to you the other day about recession and what that looks like and how to kind of prepare. And your mindset was there's lots of money to be made during any type of economic event. So just be prepared for it. And so
I agree.
That's the mindset.
I think those are amazing words, and having that mindset and putting it into play is critical. Our advice when working with clients is to, get the right foundation and the preparation in place. Again, believing in it, creating a plan, putting that plan in place, and then actually taking action. I think where we really approached the business early on was recognizing that there are a lot of amazing programs out there with a lot of incredible information and a lot of good things, a lot of good bites that you can take away and learn from. But a lot of people just don't follow through with it. The execution piece of it is the missing component, right, in my opinion, of how people are successful. So the difference between those that are successful, because you alluded to the fact that, yes, people that are aggressive and those that are timid both have failures. We all have those failures, but wouldn't you rather be on the side of trying really hard and having a better opportunity to have everything in place so that you can be successful in the future? So I'll leave you with this. I think that, in order for your business to survive, thrive, and, be better long term, then take that action, get advice, get a mentor, plug in with the right people. Stephanie does amazing professional coaching to help people get these ideas together. Mike does an amazing piece of technology and work as well, because I call it both. I call it technology because it is, and it's a piece of technology that we recommend putting into place, getting those tools into place, getting the technology into place that will minimize your burden. Doesn't mean workforce, but it minimizes your burden within the organization, allowing it to continue to grow at a fast pace and be aggressive without the pitfalls that some experience when they don't have all those measures in place. That's just our recommendation. And I would encourage you to reach out and get help anytime that we can help you. We're always glad to. I want to thank Stephanie and Mike both for being here. Mike, thank you for being here as a guest on our podcast in this episode. And before we leave, I want to make sure that people understand how to connect with you, because it is important for us to refer our partners and make sure that people know that we believe in them and we know they're going to do a great job for them.
Okay, great. Yes, you can find me at exodushrgroup.com or on any of the social media sites. That's Exodus HR Group. And also feel free to call our office at 580-931-3865, and you can call my cell, 903-436-1392. We look forward to any opportunity that we have to be a part of your business and become part of your team. We truly view ourselves as part of your team, and I think you will view that too once you work with us.
Stephanie, any closing comments today?
I just love that story that you share, because I think the message behind all of that is to not give up, right? That no matter where you are, to look for other opportunities and don't give up, because so many people give up when they are super close to being successful. They